two AI coding tools, both sitting inside the editors of millions of developers right now. Both promising the same impossible sounding thing, that your engineers ship more, faster, with an AI writing alongside them. One is backed by the largest software company on Earth, woven into the platform where the world's code already lives. The other is a startup that rebuilt the code editor itself around AI, moved faster than anyone thought possible, and became the tool senior engineers quietly evangelize. So the question every mid-market head of engineering and VP of platform is asking in 2026 is not, does AI coding work? That argument is over. It is, which tool do you standardize 500 developers on? Because this choice quietly shapes how fast your entire roadmap moves and how much of your code your engineers actually understand. Today, we answer that. No vendor sponsorship, no fence sitting. Full stack, full verdict. Here's how this episode is structured. First, the framing. GitHub Copilot and Cursor are both sold as AI pair programmers, and on a feature checklist, they look almost identical. Both do inline autocomplete, both have a chat panel, both ship coding agents that can take on whole tasks, both work across the languages your team actually uses. But they come from opposite places, and that origin still drives every meaningful difference between them in 2026. If you only read the feature matrix, you will pick wrong, because the feature matrix is the one place these two tools genuinely look the same. GitHub Copilot in 2026 is not a single product. It is an AI layer spread across the entire GitHub platform. It lives inside your editor as autocomplete and chat. It lives inside pull requests, summarizing changes and suggesting reviews. It lives in the command line, and it shows up as coding agents that can be assigned an issue and open a pull request on their own. The pitch is reach and integration. Wherever your engineers already touch GitHub, and for most teams that is everywhere, Copilot is there, governed by the same administration, the same identity, and the same enterprise controls your organization already trusts. The history matters here. Copilot was the product that proved AI autocomplete worked at all, and it had an enormous, almost unfair advantage. It was born inside GitHub, where a huge share of the world's source code and developer workflow already lived. For a while, its actual editor experience was good but not visionary, coasting somewhat on that distribution. In 2026, that has changed. Microsoft and GitHub have invested heavily, opened Copilot to multiple underlying AI models, and pushed hard on agents. The thing you are buying is not just an editor feature. It is an AI capability stitched into a platform your company is almost certainly already standardized on. Cursor in 2026 looks very different. Cursor is not an extension that visits your editor. It is the editor, a full code editor, built from the ground up with AI as the central organizing idea rather than a panel bolted onto the sign. It is built on the same open foundation as the editor most developers already use, so it feels instantly familiar. But everything about how you move through code, ask questions, and make changes has been rethought around an AI that deeply understands your whole code base. The pitch is not reach, it is depth. The single best moment-to-moment experience of writing code with an AI, full stop. The history here is the mirror image. Cursor came from a small, intensely focused startup that made a bet most people thought was reckless, that you could not just add AI to an editor, you had to rebuild the editor around it. They shipped fast, iterated in public, and won over exactly the audience that is hardest to win: senior engineers, the ones with strong opinions and no patience for hype. By 2026, Cursor had become the tool that spreads through an engineering org by word of mouth, one developer at a time, because the people using it would not shut up about it. So Copilot grew from a platform outward into your editor, while Cursor rebuilt the editor itself around the AI. Same job, opposite direction of travel. So here is the distinction that drives everything else. Copilot is an AI capability that reaches everywhere your team already works. It meets your engineers inside a platform they have already adopted. Cursor is a destination, a separate, purpose-built editor your engineers move into, trading the comfort of their current setup for the best AI coding experience available. One is a powerful AI assistant added to the house you already live in. The other is a new house, designed from the foundation up around the assistant. Keep that frame in your head. Copilot as the AI added to the platform you already have, Cursor as the purpose-built editor you move into. Almost every score we hand out today traces back to it. Copilot will tend to win on integration, on governance, and on the friction of getting the whole org onto one tool. Cursor will tend to win on the raw quality of the coding experience and on how deeply the AI understands a large codebase. Which of those matters more to your organization is honestly most of the decision, and we will keep coming back to it. Let's talk money. Because AI coding tools have a pricing model that looks deceptively simple on the website, a per seat number, and then behaves very differently once 500 engineers are actually using it hard. GitHub Copilot's pricing looks like classic per seat software. There are business and enterprise tiers, each a flat monthly price per developer. And that flat fee covers a generous amount of everyday autocomplete and chat. But layered on top is the part that has changed the math: premium requests. The heavier, more capable model calls, and especially the agent work, draw on a usage allowance, and going beyond that allowance bills on consumption. So the flat per seat number is real, but it is a floor, not a ceiling. And the gap between floor and actual cost is set by how aggressively your engineers use the powerful features. Two specifics catch mid-market teams off guard, and they are worth naming precisely. The first is the split between ordinary completions, which are effectively included, and premium model requests, which are metered. A team that leans hard on the most capable models all day will quietly push past the included allowance. The second is the agent. An agent that takes on a whole task can consume many model calls to do it. Genuinely worth it when it works, but it is a consumption event, not a flat rate one. The bill scales with how much of a heavy AI your team actually leans on, and nobody files a purchase order to use the smarter model one more time. In our experience modeling actual mid-market deployments, call it 100 to 1,000 developers, normal everyday use with steady agent adoption, a GitHub Copilot bill very commonly lands somewhere between $50,000 and $400,000 a year, depending almost entirely on seat count and how heavily the team leans on premium requests and agents. And the part that genuinely catches teams off guard is that the headline per seat price is the easy half of the number. The variable half is set by usage patterns nobody can fully predict at signing. Cursor's pricing structure has a similar shape with its own twist. There are per user plans, individual, a pro tier, and a business tier with the administration controls a company needs, each a monthly per seat price. And like Copilot, the heavy lifting is governed by usage. The powerful model requests draw on an allowance, and intensive use beyond it bills on consumption. Cursor has also leaned into giving teams flexible options for how that usage is handled and capped. The structure is recognizably similar, a per seat floor plus a usage-driven variable layer on top. There is one number that does most of the work in either tool's bill, and you should understand it before you sign anything: how often your engineers reach for the most powerful model. Both tools offer a range of underlying AI models. The cheaper, faster ones handle everyday completions at low cost. The frontier models, the ones that make the agent genuinely impressive, cost meaningfully more per call. The trap is that once engineers feel how good the best model is, they want it for everything. The good news is that usage is controllable. Both tools give administrators real levers. The bad news is that managing it is an ongoing discipline, not a one-time setting. Here's the kicker for mid-market math, and it is an unusual one. On raw price, these two tools are now broadly in the same range, per seat plus usage, landing in a similar band for a similar pattern of use. So cost by itself is rarely the deciding factor between them, which is genuinely uncommon on this channel. The real money question is not which is cheaper per seat. It is which tool makes my engineers measurably more productive per dollar. Because a tool that costs the same but delivers a noticeably better experience is simply the better buy. In other words, for these two, value beats sticker price because the stickers are close. Now, before the comment section fills up, yes, either tool can be made more expensive by uncapped frontier model use, and either can be kept lean with disciplined administration. And yes, exact pricing on AI tools moves quickly. Check current numbers before you sign anything. But the structural point holds. Across the mid-market deployments we have reviewed, Copilot and Cursor land close enough on cost that the decision is driven by experience, integration, and governance, not by the invoice. That is unusual, and it is worth saying plainly. And here is the part that does not fit in a spreadsheet cell. The real cost of an AI coding tool is not the subscription. It is the second order effect on your engineers. A great tool used well makes a team genuinely faster and keeps them engaged with their own code. A tool used badly produces a flood of code nobody fully understands, which becomes a maintenance burden that costs far more than any subscription ever could. So the spending question is really a quality question. Are you buying speed, or are you buying a pile of future debt? The cheaper line item is the one that makes your engineers better, not just busier. Cost is one thing. Getting the tool actually adopted, trusted, and used well across a whole engineering org is another. And in 2026, with every team under pressure to show AI productivity gains, time to real adoption is arguably the most important number that never appears on the quote. GitHub Copilot's rollout has a real structural advantage. There is almost nothing to install. If your organization is already on GitHub, and most are, turning Copilot on is largely an administrative action. Identity, permissions, and policy flow through systems your team already runs. Engineers add an extension to the editor they already use and keep working in the environment they already know. Reaching genuine, productive daily adoption across the whole org, not just installed, but actually changing how people work, typically took 1 to 3 months in the cases we reviewed. Cursor's rollout carries one extra step that genuinely matters. It is a different editor. Adopting Cursor means asking engineers to migrate from their current editor into a new one. And while Cursor is built to make that migration almost painless, importing settings and extensions in minutes, it is still a change of primary tool. For engineers, the switch is usually fast and the payoff is immediate, which is exactly why Cursor spreads. But organizationally, standardizing a whole company on a new editor is a bigger motion than flipping a setting. Across the cases we reviewed, reaching genuine org-wide adoption also took 1 to 3 months. Similar elapsed time with the friction concentrated in the editor switch rather than in administration. So why does the friction land where it does? 3 reasons. 1, the starting point. Copilot starts from inside a platform your company already governs, so the rollout is mostly policy. Cursor starts from a new editor, so the rollout includes a tool migration. 2, the skeptics. Every engineering org has senior engineers who resist new tools. And interestingly, Cursor often wins those people fastest because the experience is good enough to convert them, while Copilot wins the cautious middle by simply being already approved. 3, the measurement loop. With either tool, proving real productivity gain, not just license activation, is its own ongoing effort, and most teams underinvest in it. There is one more rollout factor that almost never makes the evaluation, and it should: the trust problem. An AI coding tool only delivers value if engineers actually trust its output enough to use it, and trust badly if it is wrong too often. But the deeper risk runs the other way. A tool that is too good, used without discipline, produces engineers who accept code they have not truly read. The single most important thing an engineering leader does in either rollout is set the culture. AI writes the first draft. The human still owns the result. The tool that wins is not the one that writes the most code. It is the one your team uses while staying genuinely responsible for what ships. Now, and this matters, the near zero install rollout is a genuine asset, not a trick. If you need every engineer covered fast with minimal change management, and your org is already deep in GitHub, Copilot's frictionless rollout has real value. But if your engineers will genuinely move faster in a better editor, the one-time cost of the cursor migration pays itself back every working day after, and the people doing the work usually feel it within the first hour. This is the heart of the comparison. What can each tool actually do? And how good does it feel when an engineer is in the middle of real work? Let's break it into 4 dimensions. Inline autocomplete, chat and in-editor assistance, autonomous coding agents, and reasoning across a large real codebase. I'll score each one head to head. Dimension 1, inline autocomplete. This is close, and both are genuinely excellent, but Cursor tends to edge it. Cursor's completions are not just next line suggestions. The editor predicts the next edit you are likely to make anywhere in the file and lets you accept a sweep of changes in one motion. It feels less like autocomplete and more like the editor moving with you. Copilot's inline suggestions are fast, accurate, and have improved sharply, and most engineers are very happy with them. Call it a narrow Cursor win. Both are strong. Cursor's prediction feels a half step ahead. Dimension 2, chat and in-editor assistance. This one genuinely splits, and the split is instructive. Cursor's in-editor assistance is exceptional. Asking it to make a change across several files and watching it propose a clean, reviewable set of edits is the experience that wins people over. Copilot's chat is strong and getting stronger, and it has one structural advantage Cursor cannot match. It answers questions not just about your code, but about your pull requests, your issues, and your repository history, because it lives in the platform that holds all of that. Cursor wins the in the code experience. Copilot wins the around the code context. Dimension 3, autonomous coding agents. This is the frontier of 2026, and it is genuinely close. Copilot's agent can be handed a GitHub issue and will work in the background to produce a pull request, fitting naturally into a workflow built around issues and reviews. And because it lives in the platform, that loop is seamless. Cursor's agent works tightly inside the editor and the codebase. And for an engineer who wants to direct an agent, watch it work, and steer it in real time, the experience is excellent and immediate. Copilot's agent wins on fitting the team's existing process. Cursor's agent wins on the hands-on, in-the-loop experience. Dimension 4, whole code-based reasoning. Cursor wins this, and for many senior engineers, it is the deciding capability. Cursor was built from the ground up to understand an entire codebase. It indexes your project deeply, so when you ask a question or request a change, it reasons with real awareness of how your code actually fits together. On a large, mature codebase, that depth is the difference between an answer and a guess. Copilot has improved its codebase awareness considerably and pulls in repository context well. But the deep, native, whole codebase understanding is the area Cursor was purpose-built for, and it shows. One honest caveat across all 4 dimensions, because the demos are seductive. Every capability here improves dramatically when your codebase is clean, well-structured, and consistent, and degrades when it is not. Point either tool at a sprawling, inconsistent, poorly documented codebase, and the AI will struggle, propose confident nonsense, and erode your engineer's trust. These tools are an accelerant on a healthy codebase and a magnifier of chaos on an unhealthy one. They are not a substitute for the unglamorous work of keeping your code coherent, and you should price them as an accelerant for a team that already cares about its code. Net of all 4 dimensions. Cursor is the more capable pure coding experience. Sharper completion, deeper code-based reasoning, a more satisfying in-the-editor agent. Copilot is the more capable platform experience. Its chat and agents reach across pull requests, issues, and history, and it fits an existing GitHub workflow without a seam. You are not choosing between good and bad. You are choosing between the best editor experience and the best integrated platform experience. And for most mid-market teams, the honest answer depends on whether your engineers value the moment-to-moment craft of coding or the smoothness of the whole workflow around it. No engineering tool lives alone, and none is adopted without the security team in the room. So before you sign, you have to ask the questions the sales demo glides past. Who can see your code? How is the tool governed? And how hard is it to leave? GitHub Copilot's governance story is its strongest enterprise argument. For a company already running on GitHub, Copilot is administered through the same identity, the same policy engine, the same audit and compliance surface the security team has already reviewed and approved. There are clear enterprise controls over what the AI can access, settings governing how prompts and code are handled, and the assurance that a tool from Microsoft and GitHub will meet the certifications a careful security review demands. For a regulated or security-conscious organization, that pre-existing trust relationship is a genuine, concrete advantage. The hard approval work is largely already done. Cursor's security and governance story is genuinely solid, and worth understanding precisely because it is a different shape. Cursor's business tier provides real enterprise controls, including a privacy mode in which your code is not retained for training, along with the administration features a serious organization requires. But Cursor is a younger company and a separate vendor from wherever your code is hosted, which means your security team is reviewing a new relationship rather than extending an existing one. That is not a flaw. Many security teams approve Cursor without difficulty, but it is real work, and a careful organization should budget for that review properly. 2 more dimensions matter here. Model choice and lock-in. Model choice. This is genuinely a strength of both tools, and it is one of the most important developments of 2026. Both Copilot and Cursor let you choose among multiple underlying frontier AI models, rather than locking you to one. That matters because the best model changes frequently, and a tool that lets you switch protects you from any single model's bad month. Neither tool ties your fortunes to one model's roadmap, and that flexibility is a real shared advantage. Lock-in. Here, the 2 tools are perhaps surprisingly both fairly low risk, but for different reasons. Copilot lives inside GitHub, so adopting it deepens a platform commitment you have probably already made, and that is the lock-in to way. But it does not change your editor or your code. Cursor is a separate editor, but it is built on a widely used open foundation, and your code remains plain files in your own repositories. If you ever left Cursor, your engineers would simply return to a near identical editor, and your code would not move at all. Neither tool traps your codebase. The thing to weigh with Copilot is platform depth. With Cursor, it is the editor switch itself. So, the verdict. For the median mid-market engineering organization, call it 50 to 500 developers, already hosting code and workflow on GitHub, a real security review process, and a need to roll out AI coding broadly with minimal disruption, GitHub Copilot wins in 2026. It wins on rollout friction, on governance built atop a vendor your security team already trusts, and on integration across pull requests, issues, and the whole workflow your team already lives in. It loses narrowly on the raw quality of the moment-to-moment coding experience and on deep code-based reasoning. But for the median org, those losses do not change the buying decision. Cursor wins for a specific and growing subset of mid-market. Engineering organizations that treat the developer experience as a genuine competitive priority. Teams working on large, complex code bases where deep AI reasoning about the whole project pays off every single day. Teams whose senior engineers have already adopted Cursor on their own and are visibly faster for it. And teams willing to standardize on a new editor because the daily payoff justifies the one-time switch. If that is you, Cursor's superior coding experience and codebase intelligence genuinely pay off. But you have to accept the editor migration and a fresh vendor security review with your eyes open. If you are in the gray zone, somewhere between those two profiles, here is the decision framework I would actually use. Question 1. Is your engineering organization already deeply standardized on GitHub for code hosting and workflow? If yes, lean Copilot. The integration and the governance are largely free. If your workflow is more mixed, that advantage shrinks and Cursor is wide open. This is the single most predictive question on the list. Question 2. How much does your organization treat the moment-to-moment developer experience as a competitive priority? If it is a genuine priority and you will invest to give engineers the best tool, lean Cursor. If broad, uniform coverage matters more than peak experience, lean Copilot. Be honest about which one your leadership actually rewards. Question 3. How large and complex is the typical code base your engineers work in? If your engineers live in large, intricate, long-lived code bases, Cursor's deep reasoning pays off daily. If most work is in smaller or newer projects, the gap narrows and Copilot is fully sufficient. Match the tool to the code your team actually opens every morning. Question 4. How much friction can your organization absorb to roll this out? Can you run a company-wide editor change, or do you need a setting flipped? If you can manage a real tool migration, Cursor is on the table. If you need the lowest friction path, Copilot. There is no wrong answer. It is a question about your appetite for change. And it just has to be an honest one. If your answers split evenly, here is the honest tiebreaker. Because these tools are close on price and both genuinely excellent, the reversible move is the smart one. And the more reversible choice is the one that does not commit you to a tool migration. That is Copilot. But there is a real alternative. Many sharp engineering organizations run a pilot, putting both tools in front of a real team for a month and letting measured productivity, not the sales deck, cast the deciding vote. When two tools are this good, the cheapest way to decide is to actually try them. One last point before we close. The honest truth is that the AI coding tool you standardize on is one of the most quietly consequential engineering decisions a mid-market company will make. It shapes how fast your roadmap moves and how well your engineers know their own code. Both GitHub Copilot and Cursor are genuinely excellent tools built by serious teams. The wrong choice does not take you down. The wrong choice taxes your engineers' speed or their craft quietly every working day. Our verdict for 2026 mid-market: GitHub Copilot is the default. Cursor is the deliberate upgrade, chosen on purpose because you genuinely treat the developer experience as a priority worth a tool migration. Not chosen by inertia and not because one engineer was loud about it in a meeting. We'll do deep dive episodes on each. A Copilot Enterprise Rollout Playbook, a Cursor Power User Walkthrough, real before and after productivity measurement on both. If you want those, subscribe and the work keeps coming. Full stack. Full verdict. No sponsorship from either vendor. If that's the kind of review you want more of, hit subscribe.